The Westmorland and Cumberland Yeomanry was a yeomanry cavalry regiment of the British Army that was formed in 1828. The regiment provided troops for the Imperial Yeomanry during the Second Boer War and served on the Western Front in the First World War. Latterly as infantry, they were converted to an artillery unit in 1920 and served as such in the early years of the Second World War, before becoming part of the Chindits in Burma. Post-war they reformed as gunners until 1967 when, after many amalgamations, the title disappeared. History, formation and early history. Second Boer War. The yeomanry was not intended to serve overseas, but due to the string of defeats during Black Week in December 1899, the British government realized they were going to need more troops than just the regular army. A royal warrant was issued on the 24th of December 1899 to allow volunteer forces to serve in the Second Boer War. The royal warrant asked standing yeomanry regiments to provide service companies of approximately 115 men each for the Imperial Yeomanry. The regiment formed the 24th Company of the 8th Battalion in 1900. First World War. In accordance with the Territorial and Reserve Forces Act 1907, which brought the Territorial Force into being, the TF was intended to be a home defense force for service during wartime, and members could not be compelled to serve outside the country. However, on the outbreak of war on the 4th of August 1914, many members volunteered for Imperial service. Therefore, TF units were split in August and September 1914 into first-line and second-line units. Later, a third line was formed to act as a reserve, providing trained replacements for the first and second-line regiments. During the First World War, the unit was known to have had a wireless section and armoured cars provided by private means. 1/1 of a stone. Westmorland and Cumberland Yeomanry. The 1/1 of a stone was mobilised in August 1914 and attached to the Welsh Border Mounted Brigade. In the spring of 1915, the regiment was split. As squadron's personnel were divided between the three other SQNS, which were then each assigned to an infantry division located in the United Kingdom: B Squadron to 15th Infantry Division, C Squadron to 18th Division, Regimental Headquarters, and D Squadron to 20th Division. The three squadrons arrived in France that summer. B Squadron was attached to the 1st Cavalry Division for the first half of April 1916. C and D Squadrons were both attached to the 2nd Cavalry Division for a short period in the following month. On the 15th of May 1916, the regiment reformed and served as 11th Corps Cavalry Regiment. In June 1917, it was announced that, due to manpower shortages, the regiment would be dismounted and retrained as infantry. On completion of the conversion, the regiment was redesignated as the 7th Battalion, the Border Regiment. 2/1 of a stone. Westmorland and Cumberland Yeomanry. The second-line regiment was formed in September 1914. By July 1915, it was under the command of the 2/1 of a stone Western Mounted Brigade, and in March 1916 was at Cooper, Fife. On the 31st of March 1916, the remaining mounted brigades were numbered in a single sequence and the brigade became 21st Mounted Brigade, still at Cooper under Scottish command. In July 1916 there was a major reorganization of second-line yeomanry units in the United Kingdom. All but 12 regiments were converted to cyclists, and as a consequence the regiment was dismounted and the brigade converted to 14th Cyclist Brigade. Further reorganization in October and November 1916 saw the brigade redesignated as 10th Cyclist Brigade in October 1916, still at Cooper. By January 1918, 10th Cyclist Brigade had moved to Lincolnshire with the regiment at Spilsby and Barla Marsh. About May 1918 the brigade moved to Ireland and the regiment was stationed at Buttevant and Charleville, County Cork. There were no further changes before the end of the war. 3/1 of a stone Westmorland and Cumberland Yeomanry. The 3rd Line Regiment was formed in 1915 and in the summer it was affiliated to a reserve cavalry regiment in Ireland. In the summer of 1916 it was affiliated to 10th Reserve Cavalry Regiment at the Curragh. It was absorbed by the 2nd Reserve Cavalry Regiment, still at the Curragh, in early 1917. By 1918 it had left the 2nd Reserve Cavalry Regiment when the 1st Line Regiment was converted to infantry and joined 5th Battalion, Durham Light Infantry at Sutton-on-Hull. Between the wars post-war, a commission was set up to consider the shape of the territorial force. The experience of the First World War made it clear that cavalry was surfeit. The commission decided that only the 14 most senior regiments were to be retained as cavalry. 8 regiments were converted to armoured car companies of the Royal Tank Corps. 1 was reduced to a battery in another regiment. 1 was absorbed into a local infantry battalion. 1 became a signals regiment and 2 were disbanded. The remaining 25 regiments were converted to brigades of the Royal Field Artillery between 1920 and 1922. The regiment was converted as 2nd Army Brigade (RFA). This 2-battery brigade was redesignated as the 93rd Army Brigade (RFA) in 1921. In 1923, the brigade was joined by the 2 Cumberland artillery batteries from the 51st Brigade (RFA) and redesignated as the 51st Brigade (RFA). The 4 batteries were the 203rd, 204th, 369th and 370th, with the union of the RFA, RGA and RATA formed the Royal Regiment of Artillery on 1 June 1924. The brigade was redesignated as the 51st Brigade (RA). In November 1938, the Royal Artillery renamed its brigades as regiments. In 1939, as part of the general duplication of the Territorial Army, the 51st Regiment transferred the 204th and 369th batteries to the 109th Field Artillery Regiment (RA). Second World War 51st Field Regiment (RA). The 51st Field Artillery Regiment (TA) began the war as part of the 42nd Infantry Division. In April 1940, the 203rd Battery sailed to Norway and took part in the brief Norwegian campaign. The regiment sailed to North Africa towards the end of the year, where it was originally attached to the 6th Australian Division. The regiment saw action in the Western Desert Campaign, serving with the 7th Armoured Division in November 1941 and in the Siege of Tobruk with the 9th Australian Division. In February 1942, the regiment served in Ceylon as part of the 16th Infantry Brigade. In February 1943, it moved to India, where it joined the 70th Infantry Division. In September 1943, it was placed in suspended animation. The regiment was at this time assigned as infantry to the Long-Range Penetration Group, more commonly known as the Chindits. They became 51 column part of 16 Brigade under Brigadier Bernard Ferguson. They began the penetration march into Burma in February 1944. 109th Field Regiment (RA). The regiment was authorized to designation on 17 February 1942, hence 109th Field Regiment (RA). It served in 66th Infantry Division until the formation disbanded in 1940, then in 55th Infantry Division until the end of the war. It served in the United Kingdom throughout. Post-war battle honours. The Westmorland and Cumberland Yeomanry was awarded the following battle honours. Bibliography. Derry, T.K. History of the Second World War, The Campaign in Norway, London, HMSO, Frederick J. B.M., Lineage Book of British Land Force 1660–1978. Wakefield, Yorkshire, Microform Academic Publishers. ISBN 1851170009X. James Brigadier E.A. British Regiments 1914–18. London, Samson Books Limited. ISBN 0906304032. Jocelyn L.T. Cole H.F. Orders of Battle, Second World War, 1939–1945. London, London Stamp Exchange. ISBN 0948130032. Milam, Patrick. The Yeomanry Regiments, 200 Years of Tradition. Edinburgh, Canongate Academic. ISBN 1898410364. Rinaldi, Richard A. Order of Battle of the British Army 1914. Ravi Rikai. ISBN 9780977607280.